from the Signature Bank Studios.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Good Friday morning. Amy Jacobson, Jeannie Ives in for Dan Proft, and we're here, of course, filling in for Dan, but we had a big announcement earlier today.
That's right.
And the announcement is?
The Real Story with Jeannie Ives and Amy Jacobson will begin 11 a.m. to noon on February 2nd. So you can hear us every single day. We'll be focusing on state and local politics and policies.
And
but of course,
crime.
But of course, we're going to bring in all the national issues that impact Illinois. And there's plenty to talk about what's going on in the state of Illinois.
And we thank you so much for the well wishes on our text line, which is 312-642-5600. And people that are personally texting me, glad to be back. And, I've been here 15 years. And I walked in here like, oh, okay. I'm fine.
You're right back at it.
Right back at it. Because us conservatives, we need to stick together and we need to stay on course because we have the primaries in March, midterms in November, and then a mayoral election in February of 2027. And that will be here before you know it.
And another person has entered that race. Apparently, Congressman Quigley, although he didn't make a formal announcement, he is taking campaign contributions already to run for mayor of the city of Chicago.
That's just what we need. Another midget mayor.
No, we don't need anybody.
I
I mean, the Democrats have controlled that city for nearly 100 years. So everything, the city is literally technically bankrupt. It really is. And it was bankrupt, 12 years ago at the same time that Detroit declared bankruptcy. The city of Chicago was worse off financially than Detroit at that time. It had more debts per revenue than, Detroit, and it's just gotten worse.
Well, why don't we declare bankruptcy like Detroit did? Because Detroit now is on the way back.
Yes,
and their crime rates, carjacking's down 46%, home invasions down 37%. I mean, they're getting their you-know-what together.
Well, we can't do that because we don't have a local municipality bankruptcy law in the state of Illinois. That's really part of the problem here. But listen, I think that the canary in the coal mine is Harvey, Illinois, which just declared themselves under financial distress and asked for state oversight of their finances and a request that state taxpayers pony up $30 million to help them out of this fix. Now, 7 years ago, in April of 2018, myself and Ted Dabrowski stood with one of the aldermen in the city of Harvey. We stood and had a press conference with them at the request, specifically asking that there was a process to renegotiate contracts because they could not afford what they were doing at that time. And that was 7 years ago. COVID papered over some of the problems, and now it's back with a vengeance. Their pensions are 18% funded, the same as the city of Chicago. If anybody who is a public sector employee anymore is your pension, your job, or your home, you cannot keep all three. Because something is going to have to give here. And, so this is a warning order that we have got to get our act together when it comes to the state of Illinois. But you know what? We have joining us now Kirk Allen. He is a co-founder of the Edgar County Watchdogs. It's a group that started about 15 years ago. They've been doing a lot of work at the local level to ferret out corruption and fraud. And the reason that we want him on is because I want people to understand that what you're reading about in Minneapolis, what we know about the state of Illinois, $5.2 billion in unemployment fraud, 200 employees, state employees, basically being investigated for PPP fraud. That's just the tip of the iceberg. There's far more to go into. I want you to know is that this fraud is everywhere. And the Watchdogs have been doing their work for 15 years. Kirk, you join us right now. Could you tell the listeners here, because I don't think that this audience has necessarily heard things about what your organization does, but what's your record? What's your record getting public officials out of office simply by exposing the malfeasance that they have done?
Well, thanks for having me, Jeannie, Amy. Welcome back to the show, Amy. I'm glad to see you guys up there. Right now, in the 15 years we've been at this, we're about 694 or 695 public officials that are no longer in office. The exposure has led to either indictments, arrests, convictions, resignations. They just flee office or they don't run again. The key is these people have to be exposed because there's no local media that's doing it anymore.
Yeah, well, that's why our show is going to sort of focus on state and local politics and policies and corruption. And you're going to be a feature every single week on our weekly show when we get going here, as you are a feature right now. And you can listen to the Watchdogs again, 7 to 9 p.m. on my show Sunday nights. Kirk, I wanted you to give the audience just a taste of one of the particular stories that you have been looking into now for a few months, just to give them a taste of what you do. So I think we're going to talk about the Dawson Township.
And that's in central Illinois.
Yes.
Yeah, Dawson Township's a small 358 population township in Clark County, just the other side of the Indiana line from Terre Haute. We got tipped off about some malfeasance of a supervisor and a clerk. Now, township governments years ago, when we uncovered the fraud going on in Algonquin and Shelbyville Township, the law got changed to where the supervisor and clerk had to sign all the checks. It wasn't just the supervisor. Well, what do you do when the supervisor and the clerk are husband and wife? And that's what happened in Dawson Township. And in 6 weeks, they wrote over $201,000 in checks to themselves, their farm, and their mortgage company. And then they fled office after it got exposed. And the actual, I think it was a total of 7 weeks they were in office. And still we're hopeful there's going to be some prosecutions. We did get copies of the state police report, 355 pages of information, most of it redacted, because it's still part of an active investigation. But these people, a town of 358 people in a whole township, and they walked out with, $200,000 in checks written. How does that happen?
How are they not in jail? How are they not arrested immediately? How is this not so obvious as a criminal act to anybody else listening? And I know we have to say this is alleged, but this is so obvious. And Kirk, I believe it was the fact that you guys got a tip and then you started the investigation, and that's when they resigned from office and things started to heat up.
Correct.
It was your work, though. It was your work. It was not the prosecutor's work, the state's attorney's work. It was your work.
Yeah, after our communications with them seeking records, they initially blocked me from, they blocked my phone number, and then they wouldn't answer the emails. And then we got word that they went ahead and resigned. But we still got some of the records. And what we got this last treasure trove from, the state's attorney, there's all the things we talked about, the bond. We don't know if they're bonded or not because there's paperwork that Torma sent to them. We don't know if they properly filled it out for the new supervisor because it's the person that's bonded, not the office. And if they weren't bonded, their maximum bond was $100,000. So they're going to be out a minimum of $100,000 if there's no restitution after a conviction. But there's a treasure trove of stuff coming. But the bottom line is people have got to get involved.
Well, is it vindication enough that they resigned?
No, they should be in jail.
Not when you allegedly stole $201,000. We've published all the checks they wrote. It is unbelievable to see how these two literally found everything you can imagine to write a check to themselves for.
Like what? Give us some examples.
Grable Farms. They're writing checks to their farms for tree removal, computer work. Well, they're public officials. They get a salary from the township. They can't be an employee. But they document hours, 80 hours of, working on bush hogging or just all kinds of created memos for these checks they wrote. We're talking 6 weeks.
They literally got elected in the spring elections of 2025. By July, they had emptied out numerous bank accounts at the township. This is a township of about 350 people, which, by the way, in my opinion, shouldn't even exist. And then what's the other thing about this township?
They don't even have an office. There's not even a building.
There's no food pantry stuff going on, none of it.
Well, Edgar County Watchdog, you're the group that brought down Tiffany Henyard, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And how did you get information about that? Was it a whistleblower or was it the actual politicians that live in Dalton?
It was both. We had several folks up there. One of the elected trustees, along with some other local citizens, reached out, and they said, and this is the sad part, they've reached out to the Tribune, they've reached out to the Sun-Times, they've reached out to the TV media. Nobody will cover what's going on. So John and I drove up there. Actually, John went up there on his own to one of the first meetings. But we went up there and we provided training seminars. We worked with them, walked them through what to do, and we call it forced media. Once we expose this, there comes a point where the mainstream media can no longer ignore what's happening. And that's what happened in Dalton. You know, I can't say we get the credit for it necessarily because the mainstream media finally doing their job. And I have to share this with you. We just found out yesterday there's sidewalks and floors all over Dalton, floors and buildings where when things got replaced or repaired, Tiffany had them engrave her name into the concrete or into the floors. They are now actively removing that stuff from the community.
I mean, to talk about an ego on this chick. I mean, I thought the billboards were a lot, and now she engraved her name on the floor. What are they? If there's some freshly poured concrete, did she put TH, Tiffany Henyard, in there?
Well, apparently when they replaced sidewalks as well, that was the word we got yesterday from one of the officials, and we're awaiting the pictures of it. We've been told we'll have the photos, and when we get it, if we get them, we'll definitely publish it. But she still hasn't been indicted. He's living in Georgia, running some fashion business.
She's apparently being investigated, though, but she's not been indicted. Correct?
Correct. Yeah, she has not been indicted.
Well, what do you think she's going to be indicted for? What exactly will the charges be if you had a wish list?
Official misconduct for the money she spent. There's a lot of alleging of racketeering, bribery. I mean, the laundry list could be pretty heavy. But from our perspective, the bottom line is she committed official misconduct, in our opinion, and she needs to be held accountable to it.
Well, keep up the great work. And again, co-founder of the Edgar County Watchdog Group, Kirk Allen, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll hear from you soon.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey Top Pro Answer line.
Hear about the big stories of the day, then talk about them right here on Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Dan Proft here to tell you about our 2025 Food for the Poor campaign. If you've listened to this station and to our show for any length of time, then you already know about Food for the Poor. They are a nonprofit, faith-based organization that provides food, water, medicine, clothing, and life-saving supplies directly to local